Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kenya. If you are new here, thank you so much for clicking on today's video. If you saw my last video, which was a haul, I did mention that I was going to be doing a little declutter because I have some palettes that I just don't use and or just really old and I need to really get rid of them. So I thought I'd share with you guys what it is that I'm getting rid of and why. I know I said also in the video that I was going to be slowing down on my purchases. I am, but you know, when the Sephora sale comes a knocking, I had no choice. I have to buy some of the things I've been wanting to try at a discounted price. Your girl can't resist a deal. We do have some things coming and I definitely will share those things with you guys when they come in. I also have a Shop Miss A order that came in, so if you're looking for affordable makeup, I'm going to be sharing those with you as well. But today's focus is on getting rid of some things. So if you're interested in seeing what's going to be exiting the collection, then just keep on watching. So no particular order, I'm just going to start grabbing some palettes. These have been already decluttered. They were in a box. Most of these are leaving the collection just because they're really old and they're just not performing the way that they used to. And some of them I'm just not in love with the formula, so that's another reason why they're leaving. Most of these are really old, so it's not something I would feel comfortable giving to anybody. I personally love declutter videos. I do have mainly high-end and not really much in the realms of drugstore. But I'm going to start off with right here. This is Zoeva. I did try to film this video yesterday in a different style and we're doing it again. I first got introduced to Zoeva with their brushes, which are really good. I purchased this from Ulta. This is their Caramel Milage palette. It's right up my alley. These are definitely my tones. Warm neutrals. I love it. I love the color scheme of this, but the formula is a miss for me. The few times that I have tried this, I just didn't love it. The mattes are fine. They perform well. I didn't find them to be patchy or unpigmented. I mean, they're definitely buildable. I wouldn't say that they're overly pigmented, so they are buildable. But my issue with this palette is these shimmers. For me, these two are too similar to have in a palette. That's one of my pet peeves, especially if it's not a huge palette. I need to be able to get a good variety of looks. These two are too similar to me, especially when swatched. But the shimmers aren't very shimmery. They're very lackluster and it's more of like a satin formula. And I love a very shimmery shimmer, almost glittery. So this one just, sadly, I just wasn't happy with the formula. The mattes are good. So if this was an all matte palette, I probably would have kept it. I just have too much, as you know, to hold on to a palette that is just not doing, is not giving what I needed to have gave. So it's gotta go. Enough palettes that I'm getting rid of. Finally, I kept holding on to it because I do like the colors, but I just don't really love the formula. So it's not bad. I definitely like it more than Zoeva's formula, but I don't know. I rarely picked it up, and at this point it's pretty old. But this one's from Violet Voss. This is their Pearl Holy Grail. Do you guys remember when Violet Voss was coming out with this like format? It's so pretty. I feel like these are definitely colors that are on my alley again with the warms. But this has like more of a cranberry, rosy kind of hue. Very cute. I just didn't really reach for it, and I didn't find the shimmers to be that great. Again, the shimmers definitely performed better for me than the Zoeva palette, but they still wasn't good enough to keep. So unfortunately, this has to go. And this was from their very first launch in this kind of style, so it's pretty old, as you can imagine, and I definitely need to get rid of it. But I haven't purchased any other of their palettes, so I have no idea what the formula is doing or anything. I used to be obsessed with their glitters, but I haven't bought anything Violet Voss in a while. I did like the palette, but I didn't use it enough. So the next product is Lorac. I loved Lorac, and I still do. The only reason why this one is leaving, because once again, quality. It's an older palette. This is so pretty. It's cool tones, and if I can find the right one that has the right mix of cools without it being too smoky, I definitely like it. And this was one that drew me in. I really like the Lorac's Pro formula. They haven't released much recently that I'm interested in. I know they have some newer ones that are more square and not the rectangular, but at this point I just have so much as it is, and there are other brands that I want to try. So I haven't really gravitated too much to those, but the formula is quite nice. I know there are some people who didn't like Lorac's formula. I really love it. I think it's nice and smooth and creamy, but It's very beginner or everyday friendly. For me, I did use this. I mean, you can see that I have used this. I mean, in comparison to a lot of my other palettes, this has been used. Look at the shimmers, the mattes, for sure. I mean, maybe not this purple and this blue so much, but even the black has been dipped into quite a few times. For me, this has definitely been a used palette, but the formula just isn't as great as it used to be. So I think I'm going to be getting rid of this one, but I do still really love the color story. I do have another Lorac palette. I had 3 and I got rid of the first one. Now I'm getting rid of the second one and the third one. This one I just didn't utilize because of the colors. I mean, it is pretty, but I found that there were other ones that looked very, very similar to this one that I liked more. It just, and I love these kind of like really light shades because there are days that I just want something that's going to look, you know, natural and not too much going on. Anastasia. This is an old palette. I've been rocking with Anastasia since she released the Catwalk palette. If you're newer to makeup or just younger, you probably like, what are you talking about? She used to release palettes like this. She didn't always have the longer Renaissance, if you're familiar, probably. She had some in this type of thing. Before that, she had one that was like in a sleeve that you pulled out. Like, Anastasia's been making shadows for a hot minute, girl, but this one's finally gonna leave my collection. This is her artist palette. I really like this because at the time it was like colorful, you know. And it's still pretty colorful, but I just don't I didn't reach for it. This is another one that I kind of had to grab other palettes to kind of utilize this. I could create looks with just this palette, but I found that in order to use more of the shades, I had to pull in a matte palette or just some of my favorite mattes, and thus I ended up not using it as much as I would like to. So now she's quite old. I mean, I'm sure many of you have like never even seen or heard about this. So yeah, I still actually have the Catwalk palette. She's in my archives. I don't know why I refused to get rid of her. I don't know. And I didn't want to get rid of this one because I collect her palettes, but I was just like, you can't keep all of them that you're not using. So this one is gonna leave, but the quality just isn't there anymore. I really wish that I would have gotten more use out of my palettes, which is why I'm trying to be more selective going forward. And I say that as I have 4 palettes coming, but listen, those are palettes that are different. They are gonna add something to my collection. I went through and made sure that I didn't have anything really like exactly like those, you know. So I feel a little bit better adding to the collection as long as it's something I don't have like 4 or 5 exactly like it, you know. Let me know if you're also interested in declutters of other products, because I have blushes and things that I'm getting rid of as well. So if you're interested in seeing those things, let me know. The balm, you guys, do you even purchase from the balm anymore? I used to purchase the balm from Hope Look, which, oh my gosh, I don't even know if they're in business anymore, to be honest. Hope Look went downhill a few years ago at least. They stopped doing sales, they weren't getting products anymore, and it was just, I don't know, I just stopped buying from them. But the balm is still really popular on there, and I have 2 palettes from them. These are the Meet Mattes. Do you guys remember the Meet Mattes? I had Matrimony. How cute is the play on words on that? This is super cute. I just don't use them. But I love how like this is like a rosy kind of romantic deal. I really like this. They're all matte, and they're like, all the shadows are named after Matts, but they have different last names. So we got Matt Lynn, Matt Lopez, Matt Reed. You know the deal. Very cute palette. It was down between this one and one from Too Faced, their matte palette. And I ended up just keeping that one instead because I'm just not using them both. So very cute though. And then the one I purchased before that was Meet Matte Nude. Same deal, mattes with different last names. This one just for me, I don't know. I didn't particularly love the tones in this one. It just wasn't one that drew me in. I have some matte palettes that I made myself with different single shadows that I was reaching for a lot more than this one. So for that reason, it's going. And they are quite old now, so they just don't perform well at all. So these unfortunately are going to be going into the trash. Okay, so I do have one from Colourpop. I feel like there'll be more Colourpops slowly trickling into my declutter pile because they just do a lot of overlap. It's a lot of redundancy. Too many shades look exactly the same. So I find that I end up with a lot of the same, palettes from them. But this one was their holiday collection 2017. So she's definitely on the older side. This one is the All I See Is Magic. And I did like this palette. I thought it was really cute. I really love this kind of duochrome teal here, which is kind of like a browny, purpley shift into teal. Very cute. I just wasn't using this. I still like these shades, and I've decluttered this months ago, to be honest with you. But for some reason I would like pull it back out. Then I was like, I'm still not using it. I put it back in. It's gonna have to stay decluttered because, and then as I'm looking at it, I'm like, that's so pretty. But the majority of the shades that I was using in this palette, I have in other formulas that I prefer. So I think that was my biggest reason for really decluttering this, because it's not because I don't like the color story. And the formula, actually, considering it's several years old, it still works great. It just, the shades I was using, I have in other formulas. So this one is definitely gonna be leaving as well. I don't know if I mentioned this in my first declutter or not, because somehow they got mixed up. If I did, I'm mentioning it again. But this is the Tartelette, just the original Tartelette. This is an all matte palette, and it's cool tone, and it's leaning kind of more purpley, which I really liked. At the time, I used this quite a bit. Like on some of these, the Tarte, like on this one particularly, the Tarte is faded quite a bit. I really liked this when I first got it, and I actually got a decent amount of use considering how many palettes I have. I got a lot of use out of this guy. However, I just wasn't gravitating toward this anymore, and the formula just is a little more lackluster. I don't feel like it's performing that much different than it did before, considering this is definitely an older palette. However, I kind of like mattes with a little bit more punch, but if you're into softer looks, you probably would really like this. I'm not even sure if they still make this or not. I do have the other one, which was in Bloom, and the more warm toned one, which was Toasted. I still have those, so. But I think I'm just gonna go ahead and get rid of this one. I do have some drugstore. I don't actually purchase that many drugstore palettes. I don't tend to like a lot of the formulas, and the color stories aren't as interesting to me, but these two I do have. This one's from Wet n Wild. This is their Not a Basic Peach palette. I kind of wanted to have a neutral drugstore palette that was accessible in case I ever needed it for like a look or anything. And the only palettes that I did have a lot of back in the day were Wet n Wild, because I found their formula was really, really nice. But over time, I feel like they've gotten, like Comfort Zone, the original, ma'am. Okay, the formula on that was amazing. It was super good, like not even just drugstore good. I actually still have that. It's in the archives. But I just wasn't using this. This isn't really so much a formula issue. I just don't reach for it at all. So I had to just let it go, you know? And then Makeup Revolution. This is their Reloaded Red Alert. I found this to be interesting because it has these like some purple and pink and red, and I thought that's interesting. You know, you don't typically see this in affordable brands. I hate this. I don't like the formula. The mattes are not good. The shimmers are not good. I don't like this. I didn't like anything about this other than I thought the color story was pretty unique, so I thought, let me try Makeup Revolution. Is anyone else like this? I can't get Makeup Revolution eyeshadows to work for me ever. This is probably maybe my third palette from them. I've given up because every palette I have had from them I've hated. So I don't I've learned my lesson. And then sometimes I'll see a cute little color story from either them or one of their like sub brands, and I'm like, that looks cute. But then I remember I have not had good luck with them. So if you guys know of one for Makeup Revolution that's really good, let me know and maybe I'll try it out. You know, it swatches fine, right? You know, like here we go. They feel fine, but they just didn't apply very well. And I felt like when I would blend, they just disappeared. There are only a couple of shimmers in here, which is fine. But I just didn't like this. It swatches fine. but it did not perform well on my eyes. And as you can see, the shimmers here, these two were pretty similar. Like on the eyes, they just didn't perform well. Particularly the purples, they looked dry, you know, on the eyes. And girl, we have too much makeup to be trying to finagle this and all of that. I'm not gonna sit there and try to make it work, so she's leaving the collection. You guys, the last thing is from Zoeva. I don't really have anything else. No, I have a highlighter. Do I have a highlighter? Yes, I have a highlighter from Zoeva actually. This is their Rose Cut Gems Blush and Cheek Topper palette. Real cute packaging. I like the little, I mean, it kind of looks a little cheap. It doesn't feel super luxe. It wasn't that expensive, but I liked the colors. These shades here were too light. They just looked a little ashy on me. The shade in the center is very like crumbly. Do you see how like the texture on that? It just was really crumbly. This is not that old. It's probably maybe 2 years old at this point. But even when I had it fresh, I just didn't love the quality of the highlighter that much. And it's kind of that yellowy gold. That's not my favorite shade of gold. And I was like, okay, that's fine. We've got 3 other shades here because I did get this on sale. The bubblegum pink is not really my vibe. And then these two, I was just like, you'd be keeping it for 2 shades here that you have similar shades in your collection. So the quality of this just wasn't that great, and the colors weren't great either. So for that reason, it's gonna have to leave the collection. And now I'm gonna finally be able to get these things out of my house. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you are interested in future declutters, let me know. And if you like declutters of other products, not just palettes, but if you want to see like my blush declutters, highlighter, bronzer, lips, etc. Oh, makeup brushes, I have a lot and I need to get rid of some. So if you want to see a declutter on that also as well, let me know. I'd be happy to record any of those for you. But I hope you guys have an amazing week, and I will see you in the next one.